Hi everybody. So we're starting our new class book today. This is the book, Emil and the Detectives. I read this when I was probably about 9 years old. I loved it. I hope you will listen along and enjoy it as much as I did. It was written about 90 years ago. I'm just having a look. Published 1931. Yeah, so 90 years ago next year. Some of the language might sound a little strange, perhaps. So there are illustrations in this book, and I will show you those as we come across them. Right at the start, there's an illustration of Emil. Here he is. Can you see that? Yeah. And underneath that illustration, it says, Emil in his Sunday suit. Here is Emil in his dark blue Sunday suit. He hates wearing it and only puts it on when he has to. Navy blue spots so easily, meaning it gets marks on it that can be seen really easily. When that happens, his mother damps a clothes brush and rubs and scrubs for all she's worth, holding Emil against her knee and says, I can't afford to buy you another suit, you know. That reminds him how hard she works to provide for them both and to send him to a good school. All right, chapter 1. Emil prepares for a journey. Now then, Emil, Mrs. Tischbein said, just carry in that jug of hot water for me, will you? She picked up one jug and a little blue bowl of liquid chamomile shampoo and hurried out of the kitchen into the front room. Emil took his jug and followed her. There was a woman sitting there with her head bent over a white wash basin. Her long fair hair was loose and hung down like 3 hanks of wool over her face so that Emil could not see who it was. His mother poured the shampoo over the woman's head and asked, Is that too hot? No, that's all right, came the reply, and Mrs. Tischbein rubbed it in until it made a foamy white mop all over the customer's head. When he heard the voice, Emil exclaimed, Why, it's Mrs. Worth. She was the wife of the baker, and he knew her quite well. Morning, Mrs. Worth, he said, and put his jug down below the wash basin. Well, Emil, she replied, and it sounded as though she was speaking through a mouthful of whipped cream. I hear you're going to Berlin. You lucky boy. Just going to explain. This book is set in Germany. Berlin is the capital of Germany, capital city of Germany. Okay, good. Sorry, I've lost my place now. There we go. I hear you're going to Berlin, you lucky boy. He didn't really want to go at first, said his mother, still rubbing. But what is there for him to do here all through the holidays? Besides, he's never been to Berlin, though my sister Martha has asked us often enough. They're comfortably off, you know. Her husband's in the post office. I can't go with Emil, worse luck. The holidays are just my busiest time, but he's big enough to travel alone now, and he can look after himself. My mother has promised to meet him at the station. She's going to wait for him by the flower stall. Oh, he'll like Berlin, I'm sure of that, declared Mrs. Worth from the depths of the wash basin. It's just made for children. We went there the year before last for the Skittle Club outing. Oh, my word, but it's a noisy place. Do you know some of the streets were as light at night as during the day? And the traffic, my, what a lot of cars. Were there many foreign ones? Emil asked quickly. Well, I wouldn't know about that, Mrs. Worth returned with a shrug and a sudden sneeze caused by soap getting up her nose. Emil, you'd better go and get ready, said his mother. I've laid out your good suit in the bedroom, and if you get dressed now, we can have dinner as soon as I've finished Mrs. Worth's hair. What shirt shall I wear? He asked. You'll find everything there on the bed. Have a good wash first and see you put your socks on right way out. You'll find a new pair of laces too for your shoes. Now, run along. Oh, all right, he said, and took himself off. When Mrs. Worth had looked in the mirror and satisfied herself that her hair had set perfectly, she went away too, and Mrs. Tischbein went into the bedroom where she found Emil looking very dejected. "I wonder who invented Sunday suits," he muttered. "Why?" she asked him. "Well, if I knew where he lived, I'd just about go out and shoot him, that's all." "Oh, dear, dear, what a hard life you have. And some children are just as miserable because they haven't got a Sunday suit." "Oh, well, we all have our troubles. Oh, and before I forget, ask Aunt Martha to lend you a clothes hanger this evening and see you hang up your suit up on it when you take it off. And give it a good brush first. You can put your old jersey on again tomorrow. It makes you look like a pirate, but that can't be helped. Now, what else is there to see to? The suitcase is ready packed. I've wrapped up the flowers for Auntie. I'll give you the money for Grandma when we've had dinner. Now, come on, young man, let's go and eat." And she put her hand on his shoulder and pushed him in front of her towards the kitchen. I'm just going to go back a page because there is a picture of his mother washing Mrs. Worth's hair. And interestingly, underneath a lot of the illustrations in the book, a little pieces of extra information. So underneath this one, it says, Emil's father was a master plumber, but he died when Emil was 5. So his mother became a hairdresser, trimming and washing and setting the hair of all the mothers and girls in her neighbourhood. She has to do all the housework as well, of course, and the washing and cooking. She's very fond of Emil and glad that she can earn enough money for them both. Sometimes she sings lively songs. Sometimes she's ill. And then Emil does the cooking, and he can fry eggs and steak and onions too. All right, back to the story. "Come on, young man, let's go and eat." And she put her hand on his shoulder and pushed him in front of her towards the kitchen. There was macaroni cheese with ham in it, Emil's favourite dish, and he tucked into it with gusto. Once or twice he glanced at his mother to see if she minded seeing him eat with such relish when he was just going away. But her thoughts were elsewhere. "Send me a card as soon as you get there," she told him after a while. "I've put one ready right at the top of the case." "All right," Emil promised, removing a piece of macaroni from the knee of his trousers as unobtrusively as possible. Fortunately, his mother didn't notice, but went on with her last-minute instructions. "Give my love to them all," she told him, "and look after yourself. You'll find everything in Berlin very different from what you're accustomed to here in Neustadt. Uncle Robert said he'd take you to a museum on Sunday. Mind you behave nicely. I don't want anyone saying you've no manners." "All right, I promise," said Emil. After dinner, they went together into the front room, where Mrs. Tischbein took a tin box out of a cupboard and counted the money in it. She shook her head and counted again. "Now, who did I have yesterday afternoon? Do you remember, Emil?" "Mrs. Thomas," he suggested. "And Mrs. Homburg?" "Yes, that's what I thought." "But in that case, the money's short." She took out a cash book in which she kept her accounts and added up some figures. "Yeah, 8 shillings short," she said at last. "The gas man called this morning," Emil reminded her. "Of course, that's it. And now I've 8 shillings less than I'd reckoned on. Worse luck." She gave a little whistle as though to blow her troubles away and took 3 notes out of the box. "Look, Emil," she said, "here are £7. 1 £5 note and 2 £1. Give £6 to Grandma and tell her not to be cross because I haven't sent any money lately. Tell her I've been very short myself, but to make up for that, you've bought the money yourself, and I've made it a little more than usual, and give her a nice kiss from me. Can you remember all that? The other £1 is for you. You'll need about 10 shillings for your return fare, I think, so you must keep that. Offer to pay your share if you have any meals out, and keep a few shillings in your pocket in case anything turns up. Look, I'll put the notes in the envelope of Aunt Martha's letter. For goodness sake, don't lose it. Where had you better put it, I wonder? She placed the money in the used envelope, folded it down the middle, and gave it to him. Emil considered the matter and then tucked the little packet away in the bottom of the inner pocket on the right-hand side of his jacket, and then he patted the outside to make sure he could feel it. Well, I don't see how it could get out of there, he said comfortably. Well, don't go telling people in the train that you have such a lot of money on you. Wow, as if I would, Emil protested indignantly. Before putting the tin box back in the cupboard, Mrs. Tischbein put some money from it into her own purse. Then she glanced rapidly through her sister's letter again to make sure of the times of the train by which Emil was to travel. Okay, end of part 1.